Hello, and welcome to Joliet History Plain and Simple. Joliet History, we're going to talk about the Joliet Police Department and other law enforcement agencies, past and present, in this area. I'm your host, Anita Drilling. I'm the local history librarian at Joliet Public Library. Before we get started, here are some date references to keep things in perspective. On December 3rd, 1818, Joliet became the 21st U.S. state. Will County was created in 1836. It was created out of Cook and Iroquois County. Joliet was selected as the county seat. Since 1852, the county boundaries have not changed. Joliet. Just before the economic depression of 1837, Juliet incorporated as a village. But to cut tax expenses, Juliet residents petitioned the state to rescind that incorporation. In 1845, local residents changed the community's name from Juliet to Joliet. Joliet was reincorporated as a city in 1852. This is a rather recent map of the area of Joliet. Joliet has a long-standing relationship with a few legal establishments. This is the Joliet Correctional Center, or Joliet Prison, as it is most commonly known. The men's prison is on Woodruff Road and Collins Street, and the women's prison is across Collins Street, but also on Woodruff Road. The Joliet Area Historical Museum gives tours through this facility in the summer and early fall. Now, the Joliet Correctional Center opened in 1858. The prison was built with convict labor. The limestone used to build the prison was quarried on site. The first 33 inmates arrived from Alton in May of 1858 to begin that construction. The last prisoners were transferred on July 1860. Both criminals and prisoners of war were confined here during the Civil War. Now, the original plans for the penitentiary included a cell block of 100 as a female cell house that was located inside the male penitentiary. Female prisoners were housed adjacent to men's cells from 1859 until 1870, when they were moved to the 4th floor of the Central Administration Building. In 1896, a separate cell block, Joliet Women's Prison, was built across the street from the male penitentiary. Its design was an exact mini replica of the male prison. In 1933, all female prisoners were moved to another prison for women only, and the Joliet facility was used only for male prisoners. The Correctional Center closed as a holding prison in 2002, and all inmates, and most staff were transferred to Stateville Correctional Center. And here's actually a postcard that pictures Stateville, which is also a prison in our area, which opened in 1925. Now remember, Stateville and the Joliet prison were open at the same time. Was built to accommodate 1,506 inmates. Today, the prison holds an average of over 3,500. Stateville's 1,300 employees make it a level 1 facility, the highest of 8 security level designations. There is also a minimum security unit commonly referred to as the Stateville Farm, which is a level 7 facility. And just for history's sake, this is a picture of the old Juvenile Detention Center on McDonough Street on the west side of Joliet. This is also the location of the Will County Poor Farm from the mid-1800s. The Juvenile Detention Center is now the River Valley Justice System Center, which is just down the street on McDonough Street. The old building is now part of a new layout of buildings where the warden is Dr. Catherine Larry. It's called the Joliet Treatment Center. It opened in 2021. It's a multi-security, multidisciplinary treatment facility for male prisoners only. And it's a nice large facility. All right, this is a picture of the first courthouse. It's actually a drawing of the first courthouse. And here's another drawing, a simpler drawing of the first courthouse. Here is the second courthouse, and you can see over here the remains of the first courthouse in the distance. The next picture is a picture of the third courthouse, and a lot of people really like the architecture of this courthouse, and it is a beautiful and stately building. Here's another picture of that building. And here's a picture of the courthouse, and you can see across Scott Street here is the old Will County Prison. That's also where the Will County Jail was, as well as the sheriff's home. And later, the sheriff's home was used as a dispatch center. The fourth courthouse was built, and there was no need for the jail, so the structures were demolished. The county jail was then in the basement of the new courthouse. Now, this is a picture of the third courthouse and the fourth courthouse being built. I think it's rather interesting to see where they were situated on the same property. The new courthouse, or the fourth courthouse, was being built from 1967 to 1968. And here's an aerial view of those two same buildings. And here's the new courthouse, the fourth courthouse, which was our courthouse from 1969 to 2020. And currently, there is some discussion on what is to become the fate of this building. And this is our current courthouse. Beautiful structure, not far from the old courthouse and where the first courthouse was, as a matter of fact. Now, this is a picture of John D. Page. He was the mayor of Joliet. He was the fire chief. He was the assessor. He owned a carbonated bottling process place in Joliet, but he was also a police chief. When he was a chief of police, he reorganized the department, ordered uniforms, instituted the first patrol wagon, installed a system of call boxes in neighborhoods, and when he was a mayor, he appointed Joliet's first officer of color. This is a picture of what one of his patrol wagons may have looked like. And this is a picture of the Joliet Police Department officers. This, of course, is the first officer of color. And here's a little bit clearer picture. Same picture, Joliet Police Department, 1895. Let me take a look through my notes here. All right, and we see that we have the first public municipal service to be organized was the police force. In the 1850s, a city marshal's position was established by the town council. At first, the position was filled through appointment, but the position later became elected. The marshal was aided by constables and the mayor. Owing to a lack of policemen, and a rash of store robberies, which occurred in 1867, merchants organized their own private police protection. This lasted only a short time, for in the 1870s, the Joliet Police Department was organized with a group of paid officers under First Chief James Hanna. The first police station was located at the corner of Van Buren and Joliet Streets. Studies of the police department show that as years passed, the size of the force increased more or less to the proportion of the population. There's also a Joliet Auxiliary Police, and they aid in parking cars for parades and marathons and races and directing traffic and such. They do have training, though, for those auxiliary police officers, and they learn the traffic control and radio communications, first aid, and of course, they enforce department policies. The Joliet Police Department in 1889, excuse me, consisted of the men pictured here together with two young mascots. Now, the officers patrolled the wards on foot and used telegraph call boxes, I mentioned those before, on their beats to summon the station for assistance if an emergency arose. And this is a picture of one of the first vehicles that the police department used during their duty of fighting crime. And this is one of the officers on a Harley Davidson, right around 1916. This would have been one of the first motorcycle patrolmen in the area. And they used these motorcycles because they were convenient to use when chasing and looking for criminals. And then again, this is police officers and police personnel with their motorcycle officers. And this is right around 1926. This is a police car that was used sometime back in the day. And this is one nearer to current times. And then we have some SUVs that are now being used by the Joliet Police Department. But we'll go back to the first Joliet Police Department, which was at 116 North Joliet Street. That's actually on the corner of Joliet and Van Buren, and it was right behind Barrett's Hardware, which was on Ottawa Street at the time. The next place that was used as a police department was the Joliet Municipal building. The south side of that building was where the police department was located. And currently, this is what the new police department looks like at 150 West Washington Street. And then here's just another picture of the front door of that building. And as far as the Will County Sheriff is concerned, this is their vehicle. And they have as their jurisdiction Will County. And this is the current Will County Jail, not the little building that we saw before next to the sheriff's house. This would actually house quite a bit more people. And services for this complex are also across the street here. So in 1836, the Will County appointed a sheriff. And let's see, in 2009, there were over 500 employees in one of the fastest growing counties in the country. In the 1800s, the sheriff may have had to handle a call from horse thieving in Beecher to labor strikes in the mines of Braidwood, and to handle these two calls may have taken up to a week. Now deputies travel from one end of the county to the next in just minutes, handling numerous complaints during the 8-hour shift. From having no phones or electric to computers, radios, and other high-tech equipment at their disposal, the Will County Sheriff's Office, in its early conception, had a jail cell capable of holding 6 inmates. In 2009, the newly expanded facility can handle roughly 1,000 inmates. And we have to talk about our Illinois State Troopers. On June 24th, 1921, the 52nd General Assembly of the State of Illinois authorized the Department of Public Works and Buildings to hire a sufficient number of state highway patrol officers to enforce the provisions of the motor vehicle laws. The Illinois State Police was officially created in 1922, at which time the first state police force in Illinois emerged, with men patrolling the highways on motorcycles with the goal of enforcing motor vehicle laws to provide public safety. Today, the Illinois State Police is a multifaceted police agency focused on enforcing the laws, protecting the public, and providing an array of special services. Bringing to a close today, our presentation, we have the picture here of Al Capone, and everybody likes to talk about Al Capone. And of course, this is a picture that was in the Joliet Herald News when he did make an unexpected stop. Apparently on December 16th, 1927, as Al Capone was traveling from California to Chicago via Joliet on the train, he was arrested by the Joliet Police Department. Officers credited with that arrest were Chief John Corcoran and Captain William McCanna. He was arrested on gun charges, but he did not fight the charges. He pled guilty and paid a $2,600 fine. If you have any additional questions, or you would like to share some of your knowledge concerning the history of the Joliet Police Department or other law enforcement establishment, please email me at adrilling@jolietlibrary.org. Our local history series, Joliet Plain and Simple, will premiere via the Joliet Public Library YouTube sometime during the last week of every month through April. So check that out. Other programs are information about others of our programs can be found on our events tab of our website, www.jolietlibrary.com, and you can reserve a place for those programs right there as you're looking at the calendar. So stay tuned for programs coming up. Thank you for joining me, your host, Anita Drilling, and we'll meet again next month with the next presentation of Joliet History, Plain and Simple.